So this is how the government has started formulating various public policies for the development of people. And these policies have become so important for the development of society that people demanding more and more policies and more economic benefits from these policies. This is how the emergence of public policy and the study of public policy has become so important in 20th century. So the study of public policy has become so important in 20th century that people started viewing public policy as an instrument of development of the people, different sections of people. In fact, any society has multiple groups. These groups are either underdeveloped or undeveloped. So it is the duty of the government to develop these sections of society. So to develop these sections of the society, certain public policies are required. So public policies have started emerging as instruments of development during Second World War and after Second World War. Particularly in the 20th century, there are hub of public policies with every democratic state becoming a welfare state. The welfare state has become an agent of welfare in the society. The welfare state aimed at bringing economic development, social development, political awareness. Likewise, it also wanted to bring people literate. It wants to increase the literacy levels among the people. It wants to increase the higher education opportunities for the people. So this is how the public policy has become an instrument of development for all the democratic states of 20th century and 21st century. And this is the nature of public policy. And what is the scope of public policy? Public policy has so many areas to study about. In fact, there are multiple policies in every country. In every country, we have agriculture policy, industrial policy, import export policy, women and child welfare policy, foreign policy, tourism policy, environment policy. So these policies are very general and common in all the states. In addition to these policies, there are certain specific policies like the policy of reservations, which is there in India, and the policy of upliftment of farmers that is particularly developed in India. So these kind of particular policies are also emerged in certain countries. Hence, the study of public policy has become an important topic of political science in 20th century. In fact, some of the political scientists like Ezekiel Dror, Graham Wallace, Charles Merriam, Lindblom, and others who described political science as policy science. They wanted the political science to emerge itself as policy science. They wanted the whole focus of political science should be only on policies, the study of public policies in various countries. So this is how political science tried to emerge itself as policy science. And for this emergence of policy science, there are certain policy scientists like Thomas Dye, Harold Loswell, Charles Lindblom, Graham Wallace, Ezekiel Dror, Herbert Simon, and many others have shown political science the way to become a policy science. So they wanted political science to be called as policy science. Hence, they wanted policies are to be studied, are to be evaluated, are to be examined in a periodical manner in political science so as to make political science as policy science. So the emergence of political science as policy science in 20th century paved the way for the emergence of public policy as a separate discipline within political science. So this is the brief history of political public policy in political science. Now let us see what are the definitions to the very word public policy as an instrument of development and also as a matter of academic discipline. Public policy is defined as the positive intervention of state. The positive intervention of state is called as public policy. In fact, the government intervenes into the lives of the people in two different forms, the positive form and the negative form. The positive intervention of the state into the lives of the people for the development, for the job creation, for wiping out the social evils like poverty, unemployment, child marriages, and various other things, and bringing social and economic equality in the society, public policies are required. So this is called as the positive intervention of state. And there is also negative intervention of state. What is negative intervention of state? When the government resorts to force to control the people, when the people become lawless and the people no longer respect the law and order of the society, then the government uses its force. Using its force against the people by the state is called as the negative intervention of state. But negative intervention of state is not public policy. Only positive intervention of state is called as public policy because the positive intervention of state brings positive change among the lives of the people. Positive intervention of state also ensures economic development, social progress, cultural homogeneity, technological innovation, and various other things. So, this is how public policy is the positive intervention of state. And what is the nature of public policy? The nature of public policy is to develop certain groups of people which are considered as target groups in terms of their economic viability, economic enrichment, and social development. Thereby, it aims to bring human development in any society. So, this is the nature of public policy. Now, let us see what is the scope of public policy. The scope of public policy is very wide. There are so many things that we study in public policy. For example, in public policy, we study about various models and various theories and approaches. There are various approaches to the study of public policy. Public policy can be studied in systems approach. Public policy can also be studied in structural functional approach. In the systems approach, public policies are to be studied. Actually, this is proposed by an American political scientist called David Easton. David Easton considered political system in any country as a system that balances people's demands and government's policies. He brought a new word called inputs and outputs. All the demands and supports from the people to the government is called as inputs, and all the policy decisions, policy formulations by the government is called as output. So this is how David Easton in his great book, Political System, has brought the systems analysis as a model of public policy. This is one of the approaches to the study of public policy. Secondly, there is structural functional approach. In the structural functional approach, there are certain structures like political parties, pressure groups, legislature, executive, judiciary, media, bureaucracy, army. So these are the various political institutions that actively participate in the process of policy formulation, policy implementation, and policy evaluation. So studying public policies with the help of political structures and their functions is called as the structural functional approach. The structural functional approach is also an approach given by American political scientists Gabriel Allman, Brigham Powell, Sidney Verba, Graham Wallace, Harold Laswell, and others. So, this is how there are various models, there are various approaches to the study of public policy. So, in public policy, we study various models of public policy and various approaches to the study of public policy. Secondly, in public policy, we study various theories of public policy. In these theories, the decision making theory, the group theory, the elite theory, uh, these are some of the theories of public policy. In the decision making theory, Herbert Simon, in his great book, Administrative Behavior, has stated that decision making is very crucial for public policies. When the government takes a decision, that is converted as public policy. So without decision making, public policies cannot be emerged. So the emergence of public policy is very much dependent on the decision making process in any society. Herbert Simon is a great scientist, an American scientist who has brought out the theory of decision making in his great book, Administrative Behavior. Likewise, this is called as decision making theory. We also have the group theory. Group theory, Charles Lindblom has given this group theory. And in India, we have the theory of pressure groups given by Babulal Fedia and others. This theory says that in every society, there are so many social and political groups, economic groups, cultural groups, and these groups try to influence the government to get benefits for their groups. So sometimes the demands of one group may contradict with the demands of the other group. Then the state balances the demands of different groups. So the group theory says that the interplay of different groups and the dynamic nature of different groups decides the nature of public policies. Public policy is the result of the group dynamics in any society. For example, there are farmers groups, there are industrial groups, there are trade union groups, there are landless laborers groups, coolies, agricultural laborers groups. So all these groups demand higher wages, higher market price, higher support price, higher agricultural facilities, industrial facilities in their respective areas. So the demands of one groups may contradict the demands of other groups. So in such a case, the government plays a role, crucial role in moderating the demands and aggregating the demands without any conflict, and it avoids the conflict by making public policies. So this is called as the group theory. And there is also another theory called elite theory. The elite theory says that in every society there are two sections of people. One are the common people, the second one are the elite. When common people actively participate in the political process, the educated middle classes, the technologically developed middle classes, they participate in the process of decision making in the administration. So the decisions of the government, the decisions of the administration by elite groups for the welfare of the common people. So this is how the common people's aspirations are satisfied with the decisions of the middle classes and different elites, administrative elite, elites of scientists, elites of politicians. So the elite groups, they study the problems of the people and come out with solutions. So this is called as the elite theory. So the group theory, the elite theory, and the decision making theory, these are the theories that we study in political science, in public policy as part of political science. So this is another important aspect. And thirdly, in public policy, we also study about the working of political institutions. There are various political institutions that formulate the public policies, implement the public policies, and evaluate the public policies. For example, the legislature makes the laws, the executive implement the laws, the judiciary gives meaning to the laws. It also renders justice when the rights of the people are violated in course of policy formulation or policy implementation. So this is how these three political institutions, the legislature, executive, and judiciary, they play a very crucial role in the implementation, formulation, and evaluation of public policies. So in political science, particularly in public policy, we study the dynamics of political institutions, the activities of political institutions, how the legislature study the policy formulation, how it makes the policies, different policies. For example, in India, Indian Parliament is empowered to make public policies. In every state, there is a state legislative assembly, and those assemblies are empowered to make policies on state list, on the items of the state list. So India is a federation, it's a union of states in which the seventh schedule has clearly indicated the powers of the central government and the powers of the state government. So it is the legislature, the central legislature and state legislature that study the problems of the people and they formulate the laws within the jurisdiction of either central government or state government. So it is the bounden duty of the legislature to formulate the laws in a very meticulous manner. It has to debate upon itself, it has to take the decisions, it has to clearly state the objectives of the public policy. So any policy that is formulated by the parliament is applicable to all the areas of the country. For example, in the recent past, the government has formulated the Employment Guarantee Act, the Rural Employment Guarantee Act, the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Previously, it was giving employment opportunity for 100 days in the rural areas. Now, the quantum of days is increased to 120 days. So, this is how there are certain policy changes, and these policy changes are to be brought by the parliament. It is the parliament that formulate the policy and make periodical assessment of the policies. And likewise, the executive of any country is empowered to implement the policies. The executive constituted the bureaucracy, the officials of the All India Services, IAS officers, IPS officers, and other levels of officers, state level officers, grassroots level employees, and all the departmental employees, all the commissionerates, secretariats. So all the employees s- struggle to implement the policies. This is called as policy execution. Policy execution is an important component of public policy. When public policies are formulated, they confine to only papers when they are not implemented. So policy has its meaning only the paper promises are implemented or made into reality by strict implementation. The executive branch of the government implements the public policies. Executive is another important political institution. So the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, all these three wings act as the political institutions to bring dynamism to public policy. In public policy, we study about legislature, the influence of legislature, and how the legislative process takes place in the policy formulation and how the policies are executed in the implementation by the government. And likewise, the policies can also be challenged in any court of law. The policies sometimes may violate the fundamental rights of the people. They may even violate the basic civil rights of the people. So, when the policy itself is formulated disregarding the rights of the people, or when the policy is implemented by violating the rights of the people, then the judiciary intervenes. The judiciary makes an intervention and it redresses the rights of the people, the problems relating to the rights of the people. So, the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, these are the three political institutions that are very crucial for the policy formulation, policy implementation, and policy adjudication. And likewise, there are also other institutions like political parties, pressure groups, media, civil society, concerned citizens, and they also influence the policy making. These are all the external factors. Internally, within the government, the legislature, executive, judiciary formulate the policies, define the targets of the government, define the objectives of the public policies, and they make periodical assessment of public policies. And they actively participate in the process of formulation and implementation. At the same time, it is the duty of the political parties and pressure groups to actively participate in the policy process and do justice to the people. So political parties, they bargain with different sections of people and they aggregate the demands of the people so as to avoid conflict among the different groups of people. One group of people may demand something, and the other group of people may demand quite opposite to it. So, in such a case, it is the political party that bargains with the different social and political groups, and they make policy implementation easier, policy formulation easier. This process is called as the policy aggregation. The policy aggregation is undertaken by political parties. The role of political parties is very crucial in the policy formulation because in the policy formulation, the political parties educate the people. They bring awareness among the people on the nature of public policies and the benefits that the policy is accruing to the different sections of the people. So, this is how political parties play a very positive role in the formulation and implementation of public policies. So, policy formulation is meaningful only when political parties, political parties actively participate in the process of policy formulation. And likewise, political parties also avoid conflicts among different sections of people on the policy formulation. Different sections of people demand different interests with the government. They try to bargain with the government. In the process, the demands of one group of people may contradict the demands of the other group. In such a case, the political parties bargain with the different groups of people and they bring integrity to the public policies. So it is the duty of the public policy to bring positive change in the society. And for this, the political parties also take this duty and enrich the people with information and prevent people against the conflicting demands of one group against the other. So, this is how political parties play a very positive role. And likewise, there are pressure groups in any society. The pressure groups also play a very important role in every society. What are the pressure groups? The groups that bring pressure on the government are called as pressure groups. For example, there are groups like student unions, employees unions, agricultural laborers unions, organized workers unions, trade unions, businessmen's unions, industrialist unions, farmers unions, women's associations, Dalit associations, scheduled caste and scheduled tribes associations, other backward caste associations, minority associations, likewise. So these associations and groups are called as the pressure groups. They bring pressure on the government and they try to bargain with the state for the benefits. This is the duty of the pressure groups. Pressure groups do not actively participate in the elections. They do not actively participate in politics, but they consistently demand for the interests of the group, for the benefits of the group. So this is how pressure groups also play a very important role in the formulation and implementation of public policies. Whenever the pressure groups feel that a particular policy is not properly implemented, then that group approaches the government and make a complaint against the public policy or certain officials so as to the policy anomalies, the policy misperceptions, the policy misconceptions are to be readdressed and the benefits of the policy should extend to all the people in a simultaneous manner. So this is how pressure groups are also the groups that actively participate in the policy making process. And likewise, pressure groups also sometimes make demands which are contrary to other groups. In such a groups, each group bargain itself to other groups and bring conciliation and integration, aggregation of demands with the government. So, this is how the political parties and pressure groups are the two important political institutions that play a positive role in the policy formulation and policy implementation. So, in political science, particularly in public policy, we study the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, the political parties, the pressure groups of the society, and their influence on the policy making, policy formulation, policy implementation, and policy adjudication and policy evaluation. This is how the policy errors are to be rectified by bringing mistakes to the notice of the government. This also we study in political science and public policy. And lastly, in public policy, we also study the role of media, the role of media in public policy. Media, there are two types of media. In fact, there are three types of media. One is print media, the second one is the electronic media, the third one is the social media. Of course, in 21st century, we see the influence of social media in every public policy, in every public issue of public importance. It is the social media that plays a very crucial role in bringing facts and in scrutinizing the errors in the public discourse. Social media plays a very crucial role. So, likewise, there are also print media and electronic media that plays a great role in policy formulation and policy implementation. In print media, we have newspapers, books, journals, reports, fact finding committee reports, pamphlets, and various other things. These print media, the different forms of print media, influence the opinions of public opinion. And accordingly, the public policies are to be changed. And likewise, there is electronic media. The electronic media includes the TV channels, the radio channels, and others. And these channels have a visual effect and hearing effect on the people. And people change their opinions and get influenced by different stories of the electronic media. So the print media and electronic media is an important component in making the public policies. Public policy formulation is more dependent in 21st century on media, particularly on print media, electronic media, and social media. In fact, some of the governments of the Western societies, they sense the public opinion before formulating any public policy. Before formulating any public policy, they send some feelers among the people and they try to know the opinions of the people. Only when the opinions of the people are in their favor, then only the political leaders formulate the policies. So this is how media plays a very crucial role in public policy formulation. And besides media, we also have the concerns of citizens and civil society that also plays a crucial role. What is civil society? The civil society consists of the pressure groups, the concerned citizens, the social and political movements in a society, and various other things. And these influences makes public policy very meaningful, and public policy becomes more appropriate with the intervention of the civil society. Civil society interferes in the policy formulation and it tries to bring out the positive and negative points to every public policy. So, this is how the public policies are to be scrutinized by the civil society. For example, the government of India brought the new education policy 2020 with certain new initiatives. So, the print media, the social media, the electronic media have made various comments, both rather in the favor of the education policy and in opposition to the agriculture education policy. But after some time, it is believed that the government has taken the views of the civil society and concerned citizens and it incorporated them in the new education policy framework and get the acceptance of the people. So the government gets the popular acceptance for any policy by honoring the views of the people, civil society, and accommodating the views of the people in different aspects of public policy. So public policy is influenced by the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, the political parties, the pressure groups, and also by the media. Media expresses the public opinion. Public opinion can be gauged from the surveys of the print media, interviews from the electronic media, and the instance of witnesses from social media. So, the media as a whole, the print media, the electronic media, and the social media influence the policy making, policy implementation, and policy evaluation. So, in political science, particularly in public policy, while studying various political institutions like legislature, executive, and judiciary, we also study about the influences of public opinion and media on policy formulation. And likewise, we also study about the civil society, the role of civil society in the policy formulation process. So, friends, this is how public policy has emerged itself as a separate discipline, and public policy has emerged after Second World War, particularly with the devastation of the Second World War. Many concerned social scientists, particularly political scientists of America, have brought the concept of welfare state into the activities of the government, and they made public policy as an instrument of development. With this, the public policy has become a central theme of study in political science. In fact, today, political science is considered as policy science, and many of the topics in political science emerged themselves as subject matters of policy science. That means political science is slowly emerging itself as policy science. And this was endorsed by the American political scientists like David Easton, Gabriel, Gabriel Allman and Brigham Powell, Sidney Webber, Charles Miriam, Graham Wallace, Harold Laswell, and many others. And these political scientists have brought sanctity to political science with the emergence of public policy as a separate subject. And in public policy, we have the scope of public policy is very wide. We cannot just wind up all the points in just one class. But there are certain important points. The first one is in public policy, we study about different approaches, different models, different theories of public policy. In the second point, we study about the policy formulation process, policy implementation process, and policy evaluation process. And then third point, In public policy, we study about the influence of the political institutions like legislature, executive, and judiciary on the policy making process, policy implementation process, and policy evaluation process. And likewise, the fourth point is public policy is more influenced by external factors like political parties, pressure groups, media, concerned citizens, and civil society. And these instruments also study public policy from people's point of view. And frequently, these political institutions make changes in the existing policies and formulate new policies with more and more popular demands. And the government implements these policies with the help of the bureaucracy, all India services officers, the employees, the micro level employees, and also the subordinate employees at the at the village level. So public policy making is meaningful only when the policies are implemented. In public policy, we study the role of political institutions like legislature, executive, judiciary, political parties, pressure groups, media, and other things. And likewise, in public policy, we study about policy evaluation. Policy evaluation is also very important. What is policy evaluation? Every policy has to be evaluated periodically. The periodical examination of the policies in terms of its success and failures is called as policy evaluation. For example, there is a policy called Dalit Bandhu program, in which the farmers belonging to the scheduled castes were given financial benefits. How far the policy is viable, how many families have benefited out of it, and how many more families want this program to be implemented. And these questions are to be probed. This is called as policy evaluation. And in the process of policy evaluation, when we find any mistakes, either in the policy formulation or in the policy implementation, we can rectify these mistakes in the policy evaluation process. So, policy evaluation is very crucial for any policy, and it examines the policies in, in the light of people's demands. So, policy evaluation is taken up by certain government agencies and by certain private agencies. In government agencies, we have Niti Aayog at the central government level that evaluates the policies periodically. And likewise, at the state level, state planning boards, they evaluate the public policies. Likewise, the chief minister and cabinet and the chief minister and bureaucracy at the state level, the district collector and higher officials at the collectorate level, district level, they evaluate the public policies. For example, there are social fund pensions in every society, particularly in India. In many states are giving old age pensions and social pensions to people. So some states believe that these pensions are a financial burden to the state, but some states believe that this is very much needed to wipe out the poverty among the people, particularly among the downtrodden classes. So, this is how the perceptions of the people can be examined, and the benefits of these policies can be examined with the help of periodical policy evaluation. So, policy evaluation also becomes part of the public policy studies. So, public policies can be studied with different themes: policy formulation, policy implementation, policy evaluation, and policy adjudication. Policy adjudication is done by different courts: the High Court, the Supreme Court, the city civil courts, the district courts. They evaluate the policies, and they evaluate these policies in terms of people's rights. If any of the fundamental rights of the people are violated either by the formulation of these policies or by the implementation of these policies, then the courts adjudicate with new directives. So this is how policy evaluation by judiciary is also very important for resetting the policies with its new goals and new targets. So, friends, public policy is an important topic in political science. It starts with the welfare state of the 20th century and how the welfare state of the 20th century enriched different governments with different policies, and how these policies became the instruments of development in the hands of the people, in the hands of the government. And likewise, the second point here is in public policies, there are various models, approaches, and theories. And these models and approaches and theories are to be studied only to understand the public policy in a different theoretical perspectives. And thirdly, public policies have so many internal influences and external influences. The internal influences on public policies can be studied from the role of legislature, executive, and judiciary, and how the public policies are formulated, implemented, and how they affect the rights of the people. And fourthly, public policies can also be studied in the light of various pressure groups, political parties, and the role of pressure groups and political parties in policy formulation and policy implementation. And likewise, public policies can also be studied with the help of the role of civil society, social and political movements, non governmental organizations, concerned citizens, how they perceive the public policy making, policy formulation, policy implementation, and policy evaluation. So, these are some of the important things that we study in public policy. In tomorrow's class, we'll be studying public policies and different models, the models of public policies and theories of public policies. In fact, these theories and models are very important because they provide us a theoretical perspective for understanding the public policy making. So, policy making, policy implementation, policy evaluation are to be not only studied in a very realistic manner from the newspaper reports and other discourses of public importance, but they should also be studied from the point of view of different legislature, executive, judiciary, and the role of political parties and public media. So, political science has public policy as an important theme, and public policy is the positive intervention of state. When the state intervenes into the matters of the people for a positive change, that is called as public policy. So, policy formulation is very crucial for the social development, for reaching the targets of development, and also to protect the rights of the people, particularly the downtrodden people in any society. Particularly in Hindus, in Indian society, we have legislature, executive, judiciary, And these political institutions meticulously review the policies in the country, and they also influence the policy making process, policy formulation process, policy implementation process, and policy adjudication process. This is called public policy. Public policy is nothing but the positive intervention of state. Thank you, friends. Thank you.